everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to talk about all of the books that I want to read this fall, or at least within the next few months. These are just books that are currently on my radar that I want to read ASAP. So I just wanted to chat about them with you guys. In case you haven't had a chance to watch my most recent video, I will link that up in the cards above. That was a video where I talked about all of the books that I'm currently obsessed with. I had so much fun filming that video, so please check it out if you haven't yet. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into this video. We have a couple of books that I'm really excited to read because I've read previous books from these series recently and really loved them, so I'm excited to continue on. So the first one is Delicate Escape by Catherine Cowles. This is book 2 in her Sparrow Falls series. I read book 1 in this series last month and absolutely adored it. Check out my last video to just hear me rave and rave and rave about that book. That is the first Catherine Cowles book that I have become truly obsessed with, so I'm really excited to continue on with this romantic suspense series. Next is Wild Side by Elsie Silver. I finally read Wild Eyes last month, and I know that that book has been out for like at least a year or two. It has just taken me that long to finally get to it, but I adored it just as much as I hoped that I would, so I'm very excited to read this next installment. I believe this is like a marriage of convenience type of situation from what I vaguely remember from reading the premise, but I don't even need to read the premise when it comes to Elsie Silver. I'm gonna read it anyway and have a good time. Next is a book that I really want to reread soon. This is Fallen by Mia Sheridan. This is a horror romance novel that I read in like 2021 and absolutely adored it, and I'm just really in the mood for a good horror romance at the moment, and I remember really loving this one. It's a small town story and the heroine is a single mother. She falls in love with the sheriff of the town and she moves into this house that has a very dark past to it, and she basically ends up putting her nose into business that she shouldn't be, and so some people in the town are out to get her, and it was just like the perfect amount of creepiness with the romance. Next up we have In the Veins of the Drowning. Is it Kaylee Cassidy, I think, is the author. I am excited to read this because Lachlan loved this book. She read it like a month or two ago and she just will not stop talking about this book, and I know that she loved it so much that she bought a physical copy and was like rereading it right away to annotate her copy. So I'm very intrigued. Really all I know about this book is that the main character is a siren and it's a dark fantasy romance, and that's really all I need to know. I think this cover is stunning and I think Behold is coming in very soon from my library for this one, so yes, very intrigued. Next is Seduced by a Stranger by Eve Silver. This is technically, I think, book 5 in her like gothic historical romance series, but they're all standalones. You can read them in whatever order you want. I have read at least 2 books in this series so far and I really enjoyed both of them. They each had their own unique premise and just so nailed the gothic historical romance vibe. This one is very much in the same vein as Jane Eyre. It might even be a Jane Eyre retelling. Also, this cover is giving me everything. But this is about our main character, Catherine. She's destitute and desperate. She accepts the summons from her childhood friend, Madeline, to attend to her at Cairncroft Abbey, a place of secrets, lies, and murder. Madeline's health is in a poor state and she is terrified of her cousin Gabriel. But Gabriel has quite a different effect on Catherine, stirring longings and desires she believed long buried. And that's all I need to know. This is gonna be a good time. I am so in the mood for a gothic historical, so yes. And speaking of gothic historical, I'm also very intrigued to read John Eyre by Mimi Matthews. I have read a book by this author before and I really enjoyed it. I think it was the Holiday by Gaslight. That was a novella and I just remember it being so romantic. I loved it so much. This is a Jane Eyre retelling, but it's like gender swapped. So we have John Eyre and the other main character is a widow and I believe her first husband was like the Rochester character, if I'm not mistaken. And John is here to be a tutor for her young children. And that's really all I need to know. I'm very intrigued. I haven't heard like anyone talk about this, but when I looked this up on Goodreads, I believe it had some fairly positive reviews. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one at some point. Next up, we have Ghost Business by Jen DeLuca. This is the follow-up to Haunted Ever After, which is a part of her Boneyard Key series, which I really enjoyed that first installment when I read it last year. It definitely has kind of a unique vibe in terms of like a fall small town romance, because it's taking place in this Florida beach town, and that's not necessarily the setting that you would associate with fall, but it oddly enough really worked, and it was a really fun, cozy ghost romance that I really enjoyed. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this next book in the series. Next is Love at First Sighting. I cannot remember the author's name, but this one is really intriguing. It's about our heroine who sees a UFO in the sky and takes a video of it. And then the hero is an FBI agent who I think is either like trying to investigate the sighting or trying to sweep it under the rug or something like that. I did read the first book in the series and I liked it. I didn't love it. I gave it like 3-ish stars, but the premise of this just sounds so good. Next is If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This cover is all of the fall vibes wrapped up into one book cover. My goodness. This is kind of a historical story because it takes place in 1997. It definitely gives all the Gilmore Girls vibes. Our main character is taking over a bed and breakfast from her mother, I believe, and then the hero is her next door neighbor who is a single father and a baker, and that's really all I need to know. I've heard really good things about this book so far. Next up, I have Road Trip with a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I think that's the author's name. This is the third book in her vampire series. I loved the 2 previous books in the series, gave them both 5 stars. These are just such fun vampire rom-coms, and the only thing I know about this one is that the hero is really grumpy, which is very different from the 2 previous books, because book 1, that hero was just like such a sweet gentleman, and then book 2, Reginald was just like chaos in a person basically. Yeah, I just have fun with this series, and I'm really excited that she was able to write a 3rd book, because I think originally this was just going to be a 2-book series. Next we have Mate by Allie Hazelwood. Y'all, I swear, Allie Hazelwood, I don't think she sleeps. I don't think she eats. I don't think she does anything except write, because I think this is like her 5th book to come out this year. Like, what? Like, excuse me? How is that even possible? I don't know. But this is the follow-up to Bride, which was a romance between a vampire and a wolf shifter. I really enjoyed that book when I read it. I think I read it at some point last year. And so this is going to be a companion novel to that one. And I vaguely remember some of the side characters from Bride, so I think I know who this book might be about. Next up, we have An Ancient Witch's Guide to Modern Dating. This cover is so cute and cozy, I can't handle it. This is about Thorn Scarheart, a 39-year-old witch who's having trouble finding love in the 17th century. When one of her potion brews backfires spectacularly, Thorn is hurled 350 years into the future, landing in a bustling city where her once isolated cottage is now a historical museum. That's kind of giving me Hocus Pocus vibes. I'm here for that. With the help of the museum's new curator and her charming veterinarian brother, Thorn dives headfirst into the 21st century dating scene, and as she searches for romance, she might also find herself along the way. That sounds absolutely fun and hilarious and adorable. So to round out the rest of this video, I have a stack of books next to me, of books that I physically own. First up is Serpentine Valentine by Gianna Darling. I mean, look at this cover. This is the perfect time of year to read this book. I have been meaning to reread this book at some point towards the end of this year, because I read it for the first time in early January, and I can already tell you that it's my favorite book of the year. And I need to reread it so that I can annotate the shit out of this copy that I have, and I am so excited. This book blew me away. I have raved and raved and raved about how much I love this book in numerous videos, so you can definitely go check those out. Most recently was my mid-year book freakout tag. I definitely talked about this book for a good like 5 minutes, but yeah, it is definitely time to reread this dark academia sapphic romance that is also a Medusa retelling. So good. Next up we have Ashes and the Star-Crossed King, book 2 of the Nightborn duet, which is a part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I read book 1, which is Serpent and the Wings of Night, like months and months ago, so it's well past time that I read the follow-up so that I can complete this duet. I did also read 6 Scorched Roses, the novella that you're supposed to read in between books 1 and 2. Absolutely loved that. Pretty sure that's going to be one of my favorite books of the year as well. Yeah, so good. So yes, I need to continue with this, but a running theme with me is that I am kind of the worst when it comes to continuing fantasy series. Next up, we have The Gilded Heiress by Joanna Shupe. We have a new book by Joanna Shupe, guys. I'm so excited about this. This is a retelling of Anastasia. The basic premise is that in 1878, a baby was stolen from the wealthiest family in America. Though no ransom was ever demanded, the Pendleton family never gave up hope, and their reward became the stuff of legend. And that's really all I need to know. I don't want to spoil myself for anything that happens in this book, so I'm not going to read the full synopsis. But I don't even think I've looked up any reviews of this. I just want to go into this with no expectations and see how it turns out. Next up, we have some rereads that I would love to at least get started this fall. First up, we have The Headmaster by Tiffany Rice. This is the cover for the 10th anniversary edition. I'll also show you, there's some really beautiful art in here. Look at that. So pretty. I was gifted this copy by B from Mama Needs to Read Romance, so thank you so much, B. I love you so much. But this is a gothic romance about our main character who starts a job as a teacher at this boys' boarding school in the Appalachian Mountains, and how she falls for the headmaster of the school. But there's so much more than what meets the eye with this book. Also, ooh, I just noticed there's some fun, like, creepy art throughout. That's really cool. But yeah, I read this a few years ago, and it's definitely well past time for a reread. I also want to dive into rereading some of my favorite books by Rochelle Mead. The first series that I would love to reread is Succubus Blues. This is an adult paranormal romance series that I have heard like nobody talk about, except for like, I swear, like one other person, the person who recommended this series to me, which was Bree from In Love and Words. But this is a romance about Georgina Kincaid, who is a succubus, and I think Seth, is that the hero's name? Yes, he is a human, he's mortal, and he writes her favorite book series. And this is a 6-book series that I absolutely adored when I read it a few years back, and it is just well past time for a reread. I would love to dive into a reread of Vampire Academy, you guys. Oh my God. I rewatched the movie last night, and I just remembered all over again how much I love this story. The movie is terrible, let's be real, but it's also just so fun because it's so terrible. I will say the movie was very well cast in my opinion, but yeah, this series is just so good. And the Bloodline series, which is the follow-up series, is arguably even better. And yeah, it is just, it's well past time for a reread. I think I read Rochelle Mead's books for the first time in like 2020, 2021. So it's definitely been a few years. Another series that it's been a good like 4 years or so since I read for the first time is The Diviners by Libba Bray. Oh my God. This series is everything to me, and it is like a crime in my mind that I have not reread it since the first time I read it back in like 2020. This is a paranormal sci-fi YA series that takes place in the 1920s in New York City, and literally some of like the best writing I've ever read, some of the best characters I've ever read about. It is just amazing, and I wish more people would talk about this series because it's just that good. It truly, truly is. Next, this is like part reread, part not. And I'll explain what I mean by that. This is Zodiac Academy by the Chaos Twins themselves, Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. This is a series that I read the first 2 books back in like December. I want to say, was it last December? I think so. And then when I was reading book 2, Graphic Audio announced that they were coming out with their own audiobooks for this series. So like I immediately stopped reading this series after finishing book 2, and I have been waiting for the audiobooks of the series to come out. And now that they have released books 1 through 4, I feel like we're now at a good place where I can restart the series with the graphic audio. So I'm very, very excited. I was loving this series, to be real with you guys. It's so entertaining. I love the world that this takes place in. We've got a lot of bullying going on in this series, just chaotic things, so many different types of paranormal creatures, magical beings, things like that. It's just so fun. It's just a really great series to read to escape reality. And let's be real, that is a wonderful thing to be doing right now. So, all right, last 2 books I have to talk about are both very heavy books. First is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is like the epitome of a fall book to me. So this is about vampires. I think specifically sapphic vampires, which, yes please. The blurb says, this is a story about life, how it ends and how it starts. And it follows 3 different women throughout time. One of them is in the 1530s, living in the 1530s. One of them is living in the 1800s. And then the third main character is living in 2019 in Boston. And I have heard V.E. Schwab describe this as like everything that is the opposite of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Like she said, if that book is about love and hope, this is about like hate and rage, and it just sounds amazing. I've heard nothing but incredible things. I definitely think this is going to be more of a character-based story than a plot-based story, but I have truly enjoyed pretty much everything I've read by this author, and I have a feeling that I'm going to absolutely adore this. Then last but not least, woo, this book is heavy. I just got my copy a few days ago of Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu. Let's talk about this book. This book is so heavy because it's like 1,000 pages and they had to use Bible pages to bind it. But I did want to show you guys, like, look at the end pages of this and like the inside of the, the inside of the book cover. Like, oh my God. I have been hearing absolutely rave reviews about this book. If you don't know, Sen Lin Yu is the author of a fan fiction called Manacled, which is a very dark fantasy romance fan fiction that takes Hermione, so Draco and Hermione from Harry Potter, combines the Harry Potter world and all of that with the idea of The Handmaid's Tale, which you can kind of see that vibe from this cover. And so she adapted that fan fiction into an original story that can be its own story, which is Alchemized. So I've been hearing nothing but amazing things about this book. I've heard some people say that they loved this even more than Manacled, which is insane because Manacled is still one of the best things I've ever read in my life. So I am gonna lose my mind if I end up loving this even more than that. That would be absolutely insane. So that's gonna be it for this video, you guys. I am so excited about all of these books. I feel like fall is just like the best season for reading and for books in general. Like, it's just the perfect season to read atmospheric stories, which are just some of my favorite things to read. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to tell me about some books that you're excited to read in the near future. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I would thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!